Hi, this is Murdock's Jukebox
Pop, pop, pop music.
of Rave-Ups. And by that I mean my top 20 songs from the Yardbirds. That very influential mid-60s blues boom band from England. The English invasion also brought the English blues rock boom, and the Yardbirds might not be the most successful or popular of those bands, but arguably one of the bluesiest and, as mentioned, most influential bands. After all, they had three absolutely world-class guitarists in their lineup in succession. First of all, of course, Eric Slowhand Clapton, who was then followed by the innovative Jeff Beck, and finally a very young Jimmy Page, just before he went on to form Led Zeppelin, of course. So which of those three guitarists will be featured the most in my top 20? Well, let's kick off this little ranking to find out. I went through their regular studio discography, which isn't very large, and also took into consideration their singles, as well as some outtakes and archival releases, plus even their more or less half-baked reunion album called Birdland. However, that latter one does not feature in my top 20 song ranking with any track. The Yardbirds started as wild and hungry blues rockers in the English clubs. Then, from 1966 onwards, dabbled more and more with a kind of freak beat or psychedelic sound, and then unfortunately somehow just fizzled out as a band, and then sort of imploded or simply gave up. Nonetheless, I think throughout their discography, their official discography from the 1960s, there are several great songs also in their later phase. But we start, my number 20, with a classic from the early years featuring Eric Clapton. And here we are welcomed, or say hello, to a little schoolgirl. Good Morning Little Schoolgirl appeared for the first time on the Yardbirds' actual debut. The first recording was a live album, 5 Live Yardbirds, and in my top 20, I chose that live version from the 1964 5 Live Yardbirds album. Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, of course, is not an original. It's a blues standard, written or at least first performed or first recorded by Sonny Boy Williamson, who I think also was accompanied by the Yardbirds in the 60s. There are live recordings from the Yardbirds featuring Sonny Boy Williamson. He's not on this version from 5 Live Yardbirds, if I'm not mistaken. This is a very juvenile, energetic, and fun live recording, but already with a hint of pop sensibility somehow in the background. This was also one of the first Yardbirds numbers I ever heard without knowing it were the Yardbirds. In fact, I heard this on a record credited to Eric Clapton, and only several years later I realized that that must have been a very poor quality, probably even pirate copy of 5 Live Yardbirds on a very cheap no-name label. For my number 19, we move on to the first proper studio album by the Yardbirds and the track called Putty in Your Hands. Again, a cover version. This is a song first released by the Shirelles. It was written by a blues composer, blues pianist, Big John Patton, and written together with the lyricist of Strangers in the Night. And in the hands of the Yardbirds, this becomes a very mod style, groovy 60s blues beat number. It has a quite nice 60s groove, which I enjoy very much. This album saw the Yardbirds already in a transitional phase. It features both Eric Clapton on some tracks and Jeff Beck as the guitarist on other tracks. Allegedly, this song choice was suggested by Eric Clapton, so probably it's him on the guitar.
You say hop and I'll hop. You say stop and I'll stop. You say come and I come. Anything you say, I'm like a hunk of clay. I'm just like putty, a putty in your hands.
And if you know me or my rankings, there usually are one or two really odd ones. And my personal number 18 certainly is such an odd one. It's Hot House of Omar Garashid, if I remember correctly. The title already hints at something vaguely psychedelic and far out. It's basically an instrumental with, just chanting vocals, almost a bit goofy, from the 1966 album Roger the Engineer, where the Yardbirds notably or audibly went away from their blues roots and more into a kind of mod beat and psychedelic sound. I think this song maybe is almost a bit throwaway-ish, but it is an unusual flavor in the Yardbirds catalog, and it's just a whole lot of fun. At number 17, another track from the same album, Roger the Engineer, or sometimes also simply referred to as Yardbirds, released in 1966. Well, if the bass player and the drummer share songwriting credits, that's usually not the best sign. But Jim McCarthy and bass player Paul Samuel Smith came up with this little gem of an album track called He's Always There. A snappy, short, psychedelic, freak beat, garage number about, well, somebody wanting to get closer to another person, but he's always there. So either this young lady already is engaged, or maybe it also refers to her dad. That's more or less left open, but this is a catchy little trippy number.
You give me something that lights a soul. It can't be just night, my eyes are cold. I'd like to get is dead.
At number 16, more songwriting drummers, another track written by Jim McCarthy, but this time together with Jimmy Page. Featured on the last proper studio release from the Yardbirds from 1967, Little Games. And this was also a B-side for their single Haha Set the Clown. So this came from a phase where the Yardbirds were more or less pushed by their then manager or producer to move more into a kind of almost bubblegum pop direction, at least on their singles, which created a very strange and somewhat unsatisfying output at the end of their career. However, this track called Tinker Tailor Soldier Sailor is absolute ear candy. It's a kind of psych rock, psych pop song in typical 1967 fashion. We also get a little bit of violin bow played on a guitar from Jimmy Page. And if you listen closely, also some chords or chord progressions that sound very much like an early blueprint of The Song Remains the Same by Led Zeppelin later on. The song itself is very much in a kind of nursery or children's song style, something that was popular with several bands during that psychedelic era. Maybe think also of bands like The Move. And yeah, I just like this song very much. I find it extremely catchy and fun.
Tinker tailor, soldier sailor, rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief, doctor, baker, fine shoemaker, wise man, madman, tax man, priest. How can I know just what to be? Please stop and get right past to me. Tell me, tell me.
For my number 15, we're going back to the year 1965 and the second studio album by the Yardbirds, called Having a Rave-Up with the Yardbirds. And this was the album that solely featured Jeff Beck as the lead guitarist. So at that point, Eric Clapton had already left the band because famously he left the band because for his liking or to his taste, they pursued too much of a pop career direction, whereas he wanted to stick to the blues. As we all know, he didn't really always stick to his own credo, but that's a different story. So for my number 15, I've chosen the song Mr. You're a Better Man Than I, written by two brothers, I think Mike and Brian Huck, if I remember correctly. So external songwriters, but this song was first recorded and released by the Yardbirds. It has a kind of socially aware lyrics or social commentary, criticizing conservatism, or rather hypocrites, and a false or very elitist sense of morale, maybe. And all this is played in a beat rock or even folk rock style a little bit. There's a certain bite to the whole thing, or a certain urgency. The song was also released as a B-side to another song that will also appear in my top 20 ranking here. But Mr. You're a Better Man Than I could easily have been an A-side in its own right.
Can you see a bad man by the pattern on his tie? Well then, mister, you're a better man than I. Yeah, mister, you're a better better man than I. Oh, Misty, you're a better man than I. Yeah, Misty, you're a better man than I.
We are at number 14 in my personal top 20 ranking, and here I put an instrumental from the later years, or the very late years of the Yardbirds, featuring Jimmy Page, actually almost only featuring Jimmy Page. This is an acoustic guitar instrumental, and yeah, a little showcase for the young Jimmy Page. It shows his, quite delicate, tasteful finger-picking skills, and at the same time is strongly influenced by Indian raga music, or, you know, what passed as Indian raga music in the psychedelic year of 1967. I'm, of course, talking about the track White Summer, which was soon after reworked by Page on a Led Zeppelin album. And if you remember the title of the Led Zeppelin song, then maybe put it in the comments. The Yardbirds version, or the original version, was called White Summer, and it was an album track on Little Games. And now for the next entry, we get to the A-side of Mr. You're a Better Man Than I, released in early 1966, sometimes quoted as one of the first popular psychedelic rock songs. A bit of an odd single choice, or at least not the most straightforward single track. The song has arguably a bit of an edited together structure. It feels definitely psychedelic, even a bit progressive in terms of the song structure. Again, there is social comment in the lyrics, or also a bit of an anti-war message, and most of all, Jeff Beck's use of feedback guitar. At number 13, it's one of the most influential singles by the Yardbirds, Shapes of Things.
Shapes of things before my eyes just teach me to despise. Will time make man more wise?
Next up is another B-side from 1967. I think this song also appeared on an EP, but most of all it was the B-side to Little Games, the title track also of the Yardbirds' last album. And it's a mostly lesser known or rare track from the phase with Jimmy Page. A nice little slice of psychedelic folk rock, also reminds me a little bit of the Buffalo Springfield, especially in the verses. A nice little ditty that is worth discovering, maybe even for Yardbirds fans. Puzzles.
You don't want me to spend your life with you. Go find someone new. 'Cause I know there's so many better girls than you. Puzzles hanging on my mind now. Puzzles on my mind.
I'm slowly approaching my top 10, but first, of course, there is number 11, and that's another track from their album For Your Love from 1965. An original written by their singer and harmonica player Keith Relf. And this is a great example of the Yardbirds' early raw, high energy blues or blues rock style. And also this one features one of their so-called Rave-Ups, which were wild, almost manic jams in the middle of a song. The track is called I Ain't Done Wrong, and it's one of the earliest recordings from the Yardbirds to feature Jeff Beck and his really aggressive blues guitar. Let's pause for just a couple of honorable mentions. I'll try and make this really brief. 3 tracks that come to mind and didn't quite get into my top 20, but I think worth discovering. First up, Getting a Hold on Me. This one is an outtake or an originally unreleased song from the final sessions of the Yardbirds with Jimmy Page. A really groovy late 60s freak beat psych rocker. Then we have Glimpses, which sees the Yardbirds totally in meditative, Eastern influenced psychedelia. This song basically is a droning chant with some psychedelic sound effects, very much of its time, but fun to listen to in the context of maybe discovering the Yardbirds' lesser known tracks. And finally, again, an outtake that was released on the archival release Yardbirds 68, a really heavy acid rocker called Everyone Knows, on which Jimmy Page really plays an overdriven fuzzy guitar. So, what are my top 10 tracks? Number 10 is yet another B-side, only released as a B-side, and it is a song that not only features Jeff Beck on guitar, but also as the main singer. A very short, explosive track called Psycho Daisies, allegedly the final appearance of Jeff Beck as a member of the Yardbirds, at least on a studio recording. This is a high energy track where their former blues rock turns into garage punk.
Pennsylvania snow is pretty thick. Michigan ain't where I get my kicks.
Jeff Beck was an influential guitar player who experimented with the sound of the guitar and different playing techniques and styles. Not only did he work with a lot of feedback and at that time, unconventional playing techniques, he also sometimes added Eastern psychedelic scales into the songs of the Yardbirds, and he could do so in a commercial format as well. Best exemplified by my pick number 9, which has become over time probably one of my favorite Yardbirds singles, Over, Under, Sideways Down, released around late 65, 66. A great slice of 60s freak beat, mod pop or mod rock. Lots of haze and hand claps get me every time. The more blues fans who maybe at this point are a little bit upset by my high frequency of later Yardbirds tracks maybe will be appeased now by my number 8. This is a track from the album For Your Love, and it's one of the bluesiest tracks of that album, arguably one of the bluesiest tracks. I Ain't Got You, a cover version. This is an old blues number that the Yardbirds turned into their typical UK rhythm and blues band style. It has a piercing, biting guitar sound from, I believe, Eric Clapton on this track. A sound that I think he only bettered on his album with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. That's my favorite sound from Eric Clapton. Yes, I probably even prefer his sound from 1965-66 to the things he did with Cream and later on with Derek and the Dominos. I really like this thin but biting electric guitar sound that he had during those years. And I Ain't Got You is the Yardbirds in their prime.
Got a woman to the right of me. I got a woman to the left of me. I got a woman all around me. But I ain't got you. No, I ain't got you.
Then let's go back to the beginnings of the Yardbirds and their Five Live Yardbirds debut album. An old Howlin' Wolf number interpreted by those white English guys in suits, but played with an electrified aggression that is absent in those original blues recordings, and certainly pointed towards what would become later on hard rock and punk music. A number called
Smokestack Lightning.
At number 6, the Yardbirds in a very different outfit, at least sound-wise, even though this is a song from their famous For Your Love album, but this was arguably the most pop-sounding track they had recorded up to that point. Interestingly, this was also one very much supported by Eric Clapton. It's a song called Sweet Music, and it almost has a bit of a soul influence. It was, as so often with the Yardbirds, at least on their early records, a cover version. Would have been great for a single, but maybe the band itself thought that that would have been a bit too pop. Again, I think it's really interesting that allegedly or supposedly Eric Clapton left the Yardbirds after they recorded For Your Love because he thought that was too much of a commercial pop sound. When, if you listen to sweet music, that one is maybe even, well, sweeter. Maybe the sweetest track ever recorded by the Yardbirds.
Sweet music, sweet music. Why do my heart skip? Pretty music. What makes the soul come out? Pretty music. Somebody's really got to tell me. Music.
My number 5 definitely was a single, one of the band's most successful ones. Released still in 1965, this one introduced a clearly psychedelic sound. Jeff Beck on this one notably tried to emulate a sitar sound, but he used his electric guitar, which was something quite revolutionary here. The song is Heart Full of Soul.
And I know, well, if she had me back again, well, I would never make her sad. I got a heart full of soul.
For number 4, let's one more time go back to the sweaty and dark rhythm and blues clubs of mid-60s England. And the band had written a song that was perfect for, playing long jams and also involve the audience to, sing along or rather yell along. It was definitely a live favorite, and it's also captured best on their 5 Live Yardbirds album, a song called Here It Is. My Yardbirds bronze medal goes to a Bo Diddley cover version, but played in that, almost hysterical English R&B style. All those English beat bands played comparatively fast. If you compare it to the older blues originals, a very famous number covered dozens of times by various bands. This is a very upbeat, very gritty version. I'm a Man, featuring lots of wild guitar antics. And it can be found on Having a Rave-Up with the Yardbirds.
I'm a man. I spell M-A-M, man.
If you ever wanted to find out about the connection between the Yardbirds and 10cc, then look no further than my Silver Yardbird, my number 2. Well, actually, that connection already was there on Heart Full of Soul. But at number 2 is, I think, the first song written by Graham Goldman, who later on, of course, was part of 10cc. The first song written by him that the Yardbirds ever recorded. And it is that, well, divisive single, For Your Love. Well, me personally, I'm an avid fan and promoter of the harpsichord as an instrument in rock and pop music. So it was clear from the get-go that this track would have to feature somewhere in my top 20. In addition to that, this song is super catchy. It's a 60s beat classic. Even though Eric Clapton may think otherwise, this is a fantastic track. The Yardbirds with For Your Love.
For your love, for your love.
But if For Your Love was my number 2, what did make the number 1 spot for me? And some of you might go now, that's he's trying to be different pick, but I really, really love this recording, even though this is actually just a rewrite or a rip-off of a cover version that the Yardbirds had already recorded before. They recorded Train Kept Rolling, which had been popularized as a rockabilly number in the 1950s, and released it on, I think, Having a Rave-Up with the Yardbirds, but then did an even more ferocious version of that song with slightly changed lyrics and a heavier focus on a really grinding riff, which makes this recording definitely a kind of proto-punk or proto-hard rock. They called the number Stroll On. Again, as I've said, and there's no denying that, this is simply a rip-off of Train Kept Rolling, but the pure energy of this track blows everything else out of the water. It's my favorite Yardbird track of all time. They recorded this version originally for the 60s cult movie Blow Up, in which they also appeared as a band in a scene where the protagonist goes into a club and a band is playing, and that happens to be the Yardbirds, and they are thrashing out this version of Train Kept Rolling under the name Stroll On. My personal number 1. What are your top 20 if you are a Yardbirds fan? Thanks for watching and maybe singing along. My next jukebox will be filled with, but that's a story for another day. Find out on Murdock's Music Minute.
I'm so alone, I'm gonna make you sing so alone. If I could really love